Jensen Albright, CEO of the Golden Spoon, a popular eatery renowned for its comforting American cuisine, felt a familiar knot of unease tighten in his gut. Recent customer reviews had been lukewarm, and staff turnover was unusually high. He dismissed it as typical industry fluctuations, but persistent, nagging doubt gnawed at him. Were things truly as good as they appeared from his executive suite? He decided to find out firsthand. His transformation was meticulously planned. Gone were the tailored suits and polished leather shoes. In their place, he donned faded jeans, a well-worn band t-shirt, and scuffed work boots. He grew a scruffy beard and swapped his usual sleek glasses for a pair of thick, unfashionable frames. He adopted the name Gary, a distant cousin needing a fresh start, looking for work as a busboy. The scent of disinfectant and stale cooking oil, so far removed from his usual office aroma, immediately assaulted his senses as he stepped through the service entrance. The relentless clang of pots and pans, the hurried shouts of orders, and the constant rush of feet on the tile floor were a chaotic symphony he'd only ever heard from afar. His new identity completely stripped away his usual power, forcing him into unfamiliar, uncomfortable shoes, and he found himself sweating not from the heat of the kitchen, but from the sheer vulnerability of it all. The first whisper of unease arrived subtle as a whisper, yet it grated on Jensen's nerves. During his initial shift, he noticed a busser, young and clearly overwhelmed, stacking plates precariously high. "Careful there, bud," Jensen offered, instinctively reaching out. The busser, a lanky young man named Kyle, merely shrugged, his eyes distant. "Doesn't matter. They break. Management just orders more. No biggie." Jensen felt a cold prickle. He'd always prided himself on efficiency and waste reduction. This casual disregard, this dismissive attitude, hinted at deeper currents beneath the surface, a fraying at the edges of what he believed was a well-oiled machine. He felt that familiar knot forming in his stomach, a growing sense of unease. His personal gauntlet came swiftly. A Friday night rush, the restaurant packed to bursting. Orders piled up, tables turned slowly, and the kitchen became a maelstrom of yelling and frantic movement. A plate, laden with a prime rib dinner, slipped from a server's grasp, shattering on the floor. Before Jensen could react, a supervisor, a stern woman with tired eyes named Brenda, barked, "Gary, clean that up now, and hurry, table's waiting." Jensen, accustomed to giving orders, found himself on his knees, picking up shards of ceramic and slippery food, his hands shaking slightly. The stress was palpable, a tangible weight in the air. He felt the tension radiating through his muscles, the strain of keeping up. The crushing realization hit him like a physical blow during a lull in service. He overheard a hushed conversation between two longtime servers, one named Debbie and the other, a quiet man named Samuel. Debbie gestured vaguely toward the kitchen, her voice low. "Another batch of those special mashed potatoes went out. You know, the ones with the extra seasoning." Samuel winced. Jensen's blood ran cold. Special mashed potatoes? He knew exactly what she meant. They had a strict policy against reserving food. Yet here was a casual admission of a systemic flaw, a blatant disregard for food safety. It was a staggering shock, something he genuinely believed was impossible in his organization. A sudden coldness washed over him, his chest tightening, the stabbing realization of a truth he was blind to. Through genuine, unforced conversations, the voices of the unheard began to reach him. He learned of servers having to pay for customer walk-offs out of their own tips, a practice he'd outlawed years ago. He heard about broken equipment going unfixed for weeks, forcing employees to improvise with makeshift tools, risking injury. One afternoon, while wiping down tables, an older hostess named Martha, who had worked at the Golden Spoon since its inception, sat beside him. Her voice, usually bright, was tinged with weariness. "You know, Gary," she began, completely unaware of his true identity. "My granddaughter, Lily, she just got accepted to State University. But with my hours cut back and no raises in 2 years, I don't know how I'll help her. This place, it used to feel like family, but now it's just a job, a hard one." Her words, simple yet devastating, pierced Jensen's core. He could feel the weight of her quiet desperation, the deep-seated struggles she faced daily. The absolute gut-wrenching betrayal, the true systemic rot, came with a sickening thud. He was in the walk-in freezer, retrieving ingredients, when he overheard Brenda, the supervisor, on her phone. Her voice, normally gruff, was conspiratorial. "Look, just mark it as spoilage on the inventory. Jensen's obsessed with the numbers, but he never checks the actual stock. We'll just dispose of it ourselves." A small, sharp clinking sound followed. Jensen froze. He peered through a gap in the shelving. Brenda was meticulously removing prime cuts of steak from their packaging and placing them into a cooler bag. His breath hitched in his throat. Embezzlement, deliberate theft by a trusted supervisor, hidden under a blanket of false inventory reports. It wasn't just incompetence. It was a profound, systematic disrespect, a deep rot extending far deeper than he could have imagined. His blood ran cold, and the chilling dread enveloped him. The next morning, at the peak of the lunch rush, Jensen Albright, still in his Gary persona, stood in the center of the bustling dining room. He clapped his hands, a sound that cut through the noise, demanding attention. The chatter slowly died down, eyes turning toward the scruffy busboy. Then, with a deliberate slowness that drew every eye, he reached up and, with a swift motion, pulled off his wig. Next came the glasses, then, with a flourish, he smoothed down his newly grown beard, revealing the familiar, distinguished face of Jensen Albright, CEO of the Golden Spoon. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Astonishment, disbelief, and a mix of fear and awe contorted the faces of staff, who had unknowingly been interacting with their boss. A profound silence fell, the sudden understanding settling heavy in the air. Jensen's voice, clear and resonant, filled the sudden quiet. "I have seen, I have heard, and I have learned." His gaze fell on Brenda, who stood frozen, her face ashen. "Brenda, your services are no longer required. Effective immediately, and the spoilage you've been disposing of will be accounted for." Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Jensen then addressed the entire team, his voice unwavering. "Starting today, things change. Those who have stolen from this company, who have disregarded our customer safety, who have exploited our employees, they will face the consequences." The dawn of a new era began within days. Jensen personally oversaw the implementation of a new, transparent inventory system with daily checks. The broken equipment was replaced, and a significant portion of his personal income was invested in immediate, substantial raises for all frontline staff. A new employee support program was launched, offering financial assistance and counseling. The policy of staff paying for walk-offs was not just reiterated as illegal, but actively enforced against. Martha, the elderly hostess, received a bonus that would cover Lily's first semester, and her hours were restored. Customer reviews soared, praising the renewed vigor of the staff and the noticeable improvement in food quality and service. The rhythmic clang of the kitchen now felt purposeful, the shouts of orders filled with new energy, and the hurried bustle on the floor was infused with a sense of shared purpose. The Golden Spoon, once teetering on the brink of mediocrity, was resurrected, its integrity and reputation not just restored, but shining brighter than ever before. Jensen had learned the vital importance of empathy, the transformative power of truly listening to frontline voices, and the profound impact of courageous, ethical leadership. The disconnect between leadership and staff had been eradicated, replaced by a thriving, empathetic culture, a true testament to the power of seeing beyond the surface.